Thanks for joining us. I'm Carolyn McKenzie. During the holidays, we often look back at the year gone by, and as 2021 brought us another year of challenges, we thought it a good time to bring you some of the stories that made us feel good or captivated us this year, and tell you a little bit about what those stories mean to the journalists who brought them to you. First, we head to Kingston, where the legacy of Gord Downie and the Tragically Hip is stronger than ever. Though it's been 5 years since the band's last concert, there is no doubt that Kingston will be forever Hip Town.
2021 was a great year for fans of the Hip. There was a lot of previously unreleased music available, but it was also a year of reflection. The year marked the 5-year anniversary of the band's final concert right here in their hometown of Kingston, Ontario. I know the band was insular during that tour. You were concentrating on getting through show by show, but the amount of love that was being conveyed across the globe, not just Canada, across the globe, and by the time it finished up here, did you get a sense of that? Could you feel it?
At the time we were doing it, I was aware, but I was kind of keeping it at arm's length at the time because we had a job to do. And my concern, the reason I was on the road at the time was because Gord wanted to be on the road. And it wasn't my choice. It wasn't the way I would have played it if it was me in Gord's position. But he really needed that, and we needed to be there for him. So my role at that time was just to be there to support Gord in any way I could. And the outpouring of love, I was terrified that the whole thing was going to be, the whole tour would be a funeral every night for 15 or 20,000 people. And I just thought, I can't do it. Emotionally, I won't make it. But it wasn't that. It was this outpouring of love. And you would see people crying, but also people crying with joy and really emotionally embracing Gord and the band. So, yeah, it was moving, and it was hard to keep it at arm's length. And then after we played the last note, it was, there was a bit of a rush of emotion, and also quite a vacuum that happened in my life and in all of our lives. It
was a very incredible experience that we had that last tour. To me, it spoke to not only Gord's courage as a man and as a performer, but it also spoke to the power of music to unite people, because we set off on that tour really not sure what to expect. And as the shows progressed, the love and the powerful, strong emotion that we were getting back from the audience as a result of us playing was actually very buoying. And I will maintain forever that Gord actually got better, buoyed by that, and the feeling that just amongst us, not just the band, but our crew people. And again, it's very an enduring love that pushed the whole thing on.
That whole day, really, one of the longer days of my life, because there was something. Even though the vibe was great, the weather's great, Kingston's, Market Square's exploding, it's all going great, but we still had to get up there and play the show, and I think there was a bit of a sort of hanging over our heads a little bit. But you could see it. I'd have people I know out there crying, and I'd be like, what are you doing to me?
Thank you so much. I love you so much, sir.
Thank you, Bill.
Our goal was to make sure everybody had a mask, because when we started, it was very hard to get a face mask.
Last year at this time, everybody said, I can't wait for 2021. And then we got into this year and nothing really changed. One day led into the next, and then the vaccine rollout.
I'm here to take you to your vaccination appointment. Are you ready to go?
Excellent. There was just so much stress and anxiety in their voices. It really got me worked up.
And that just brought me to thinking, there's so many incredible people that did so many incredible things throughout the year. We need to showcase them.
So I'm going to just start by looking at
We went from, having walk-in patients and scheduled appointments to all of a sudden we had to screen people at the door, and we had to do a lot of virtual care.
I don't think nurses have ever seen any situations like this before, but I've also never seen nurses band together like we have now.
They each had a common goal, and it was, we're all in this together.
The dancers were really curious, what could we do? Is there something we could do for healthcare workers?
So we profiled 5 different stories within this half-hour special, from doctors to nurses to college and university students.
We want to see how your body reacts to COVID. How is that different between different races, between different genders?
To the National Ballet of Canada. Each one was different, but they all shared the same meaning about giving back and moving forward in life despite a pandemic.
So the King and Bay story was a really interesting one because, like so many other companies, they had to shut down when the pandemic rolled around. Instead of just shutting down operation entirely, what this guy decided to do was have all of his employees take these beautiful shirts and cut them up and make them into these beautiful masks that people could wear. And this was back before we really knew what COVID was and how it was spread.
We wanted to do something to give back to the community. And we have lots of fabric, and we thought, hey, we're experienced in tailoring, so let's see what we can do.
It is quicker, uses less fabric.
When he then opened it up, they made these YouTube videos, they put them on the web to allow for other people in all different kinds of communities and different languages. And so a company like this stepping up was great.
People rally, and there's so much good out there and so many positive things to celebrate.
There can seem like there's a lot of negativity in the world, and the day-to-day news grind can be a difficult one. But with making a difference, you really get to go out there and see the positivity in your community and speak to people that are really trying to make positive change.
Did you ever think in your lifetime that you would be vaccinating people against a deadly disease?
I can't say for sure that I'd ever expect something like this. We feel that every needle that's going into these arms is like a feeling of hope.
Just the happiness that we see from them is just overwhelming. It makes us realize that what we're doing is the right thing. There is definitely nothing that's going to beat this.
I really hope that this can inspire a girl out there who aspires to change the world through science, because I really do believe that science is a superpower.
And it is such a privilege to speak to these people. And I always feel honored to tell their story and to try and do it to the best of my ability so that everybody else can see what I see every day.
They were all extraordinary people giving of their time, and it's making, this world a better place.
There we go. Hi all. It's amazing. A lot of times after a call, you don't see the person again. They move on and we move on, and you don't get an opportunity to find out what happens.
When I first heard what we were doing that Monday, I just thought to myself, it was a really emotional story. I didn't really know what we were getting ourselves into.
Yeah, when Trish and I got assigned this, we were so excited. It was a really good news story in the middle of a long pandemic.
Our crew was dispatched for a child who wasn't breathing, and when we reached there, little Hunter here, he was blue, wasn't breathing. Fortunately, within a few seconds, we were able to get him breathing again.
Hunter visited the station soon after that emergency for a tour, and now at age 4, he has returned, and not empty-handed.
These traumatic events, it can change a child. So for us to be able to give back, even if it's just teddy bears, we know that on days like that, it's going to make a huge impact on how they look back on that experience. So we're very proud of him for doing that for other children.
There have obviously been so many negative stories during the pandemic, so to hear something so positive and to come from a kid so young, Hunter, was amazing. It's so incredible to hear such a story of hope.
I think what really hit me personally with this story is just hearing the firemen's account for it, because they're always wondering what happened to their victims. Kind of like with reporting, we don't always get to find the ending. So when you do and it ends up being something really happy, that can be really emotional, and it's just really, it's a good feeling to know that for a first responder, they did something and it saved someone's life. And then on our end, to know that something turned out okay, it just makes the job a little bit easier for sure.
When I was shooting camera, you do get involved in the item, but this one kind of got tied up in the moment where I even forgot I was doing camera. I just stop and smile, and actually I was smiling the whole day because of it. It was so good.
You know, in this day and age when there seems to be nothing but news about COVID and layoffs and all of that kind of thing, to see a story of that nature was just so heartwarming, and it really was very genuine story.
This was something really good news.
After Hunter's emergency, he's realized that the teddy bears that day really helped his sisters. And realizing that, he's saved up his money, he's made a donation, he's brought them in here today. And I think everyone really realized the impact that that will have on other children and what they may experience during a future emergency.
So I think the hardest part going through that story was just finding out everything the family went through, which is a normal part of our job. You know, you hear a lot of upsetting stories, especially over the past couple of years because of COVID. So when you walk into a story where there is a happy ending and you get to see that relief and all that happiness, it just makes it worth it.
I would have given just about anything to be one of those firefighters at that point in time, just to have experienced that. Again, seeing so much tragedy as they do. To see something that warm and wonderful must have just been amazing.
Great to see that he's doing very well. He's in kindergarten now, he's doing great at school, so we're very proud of him.
Summer, we got an email in our inbox about a GoFundMe page looking to raise money for a new prosthetic leg for this man who lived in the Crowsnest Pass. So I hopped on the story and drove out there to meet him. We sat down in his yard for probably about an hour and just talked about his story.
Ken Hildebrand has defied the odds of survival more than once. As an infant, he was diagnosed with polio, receiving experimental surgeries and spending much of his childhood in hospital.
When I left the children's hospital, I had braces on both legs and arm braces, and my right leg was 4 inches longer than my left leg.
It's one thing to survive polio and go through that whole ordeal, but Ken has had a lot more happen in his life, and a lot of people actually know about his incident because he was featured on an episode of the show I Shouldn't Be Alive.
In January 2008, the unthinkable happened when his quad rolled over, trapping him underneath and leaving him out in the cold Alberta wilderness all alone.
I was shocked. You know, it's super unthinkable to be out in the woods, trapped under a vehicle for 3 nights straight. That's just almost superhuman to be able to survive that, and thankfully he stayed awake that whole time, and a man and his dog ended up finding him and getting him some help.
The blood flow was cut off and I got gangrene.
His right leg amputated from the accident.
It was really hard to watch Ken try to walk around and go up his stairs with one leg that is affected by polio and super weak, and then his other leg is a prosthesis that just hasn't been working for him. So that was really difficult to kind of witness. And before going into this story, I had no idea just how expensive a replacement would be, but they needed $80,000, and the GoFundMe page was kind of their only chance to make that happen.
I'm pretty sure that if I got that leg, the Lord willing, I'll probably get another 20 years.
I was completely overwhelmed. I expected that we would reach the goal, but I did not expect we would reach it in 1 month.
The GoFundMe page actually ended up surpassing the amount that they needed, and once I saw that they had reached their goal so quickly, I reconnected with Ken and his friend Deb and his family to meet them at their first fitting appointment where he'd try on his new leg.
It's a prosthetic knee with a hydraulic unit in it that is controlled by a computer. So the idea is that it replicates what the amputated leg would do.
This is probably the best thing that's happened to him for, 12 years since he got his other leg.
I'd really like to thank all the people who helped make this dream possible.
Watching him walk was super special because it was really just night and day from when I first met him to when he got his new leg, and it was a really happy day.
So much easier to get up and to even walk than with the old leg. I'm going to be able to dance with this.
When I last spoke to Ken in mid-December, his leg still wasn't 100%. They were still working out some kinks with the mechanism and the fitting of the socket, but you know, he's just super excited to get those final things worked out and be able to walk on a working leg again.
The first time I went there, I was kind of like, how is this even still here? It's this huge green space sandwiched between the airport and a big industrial park called the Techno Park.
I personally find it amazing that there is this sort of gem in the middle of all this industrial.
This is one of the last remaining unfragmented, unprotected green spaces that we have on the island of Montreal.
Environmental advocates say this parcel of land is home to many sensitive species, including monarch butterflies.
Thousands of people go bird watching there every year. Photographers flock there. You see creatures you wouldn't necessarily expect to see in the middle of the city.
You could be forgiven for driving by and not even realizing that you have 215 hectares of valuable wetland and green space here.
The birders don't own the place though. With its neighbors being an airport and an industrial park, development is a constant threat.
We have 150 hectares that are under federal control, another 60 hectares that are under municipal and private control.
There's this dedicated group of nature lovers who stand up for the wildlife in the area. One of the main organizers is a college literature teacher, Catherine Collin.
We just want to make sure that this is a space that is conserved in perpetuity.
They're not getting paid for this. Often it takes up more of their time than whatever their real job is. And I always admire that. It's that real passion, that spirit, that fighting spirit.
If you let this one project go forward, then there'll be others and others.
They're super passionate about this.
This year the threats just kept coming.
This is unacceptable.
Montreal airport authorities have identified a large parcel of land north of the airport that is available for commercial and industrial development. 144 hectares have been labeled, but most of the area is made up of green space with wetlands and a golf course. Medicom, what they want to do is they want to build a new plant, or they're proposing to build one that would manufacture the membranes or the filters for new masks.
$29 million of federal money is going to Medicom, and I do not think federal money should be spent to damage a very important piece of environment.
I am in discussion with the City of Montreal, with a number of other stakeholders to ensure that the Technopark itself is protected.
We still don't know if that project will go ahead or not, but in the meantime, a massive new multi-billion-dollar light rail train system called the REM is being built in Montreal. Part of the tunnel goes right under the Technopark.
As Catherine Collin takes a closer look at this piece of green space, she doesn't like what she sees. Heron Pond is almost completely dry.
This is a catastrophic scene for us.
The REM didn't officially put the blame on themselves, but the conservationist and environmental group says that because of that digging, it created essentially a sinkhole in some of that land, and it drained a wetland, a huge marsh.
Dozens of concerned residents turned out Sunday to alert elected officials to what they say is an urgent matter. I think that's what they're trying their best to get across, you know, the fact that this is not just something to be brushed aside.
In the fall, it almost seemed like nature wanted to reward them for all their efforts.
The scissor-tailed flycatcher, also known as the Texas bird of paradise, sports a long split tail and is normally found in the southern United States.
It's completely out of the ordinary for us.
When this bird had first been spotted, it was a party. There were quite a few people there.
We cover a lot of those stories, environmentalists versus developers. You see that a lot, and you know, in some cases developers win, in other cases they don't always win though. So, but they're important issues, and they have to be covered.
It's finding a way for both to coexist, you know.
Thank you for joining us. I'm Carolyn McKenzie. We leave you with one more thing that helps us celebrate the season. Some Christmas lights that show you can never have too many. Wishing you and your family a happy and healthy 2022.